Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Accuracy in America. I'm your host, Don Irvine, and my co-host, ensconced in Virginia, Brian McNichol.
Hello, deplorables, dregs, despicables, Neanderthals, semi-fascists, and of course those dog-faced pony soldiers.
Hey, this might be a good day for you to go and play some golf.
Yeah, if I had time, I would be high on my list. It's a good day, nice day out there. I get a chance later in the week. It's supposed to be nice all week.
Yeah, it's actually supposed to be pretty decent. So once again, the warmer than normal weather pattern has kind of continued, and I am not complaining.
No,
it's
especially it's like people elsewhere in the world. It's one of the coldest winters of all time. So I'm happy to be in the place where it's not cold.
Yeah, I meant to look up that place you mentioned last week about being super cold in Utah. But they've got Utah in general has gotten hit pretty hard with the snow. But once again, that'll be good for them, come down the line here for the summer and everything like that. So we'll have to say the one thing, as much as I hated being in Utah in the winter, in the dead of winter, it was beautiful on the mountains to look at the mountains.
Yeah, but it was.
I'll give them credit for that, but I can live without it too.
The Salt Lake City is the coldest average temperature of any city that has a team in the NBA. That means it's colder than Minneapolis, Detroit, Toronto, Boston, right?
Wow, that's an interesting stat.
Yeah.
I never would have thought that. Yeah, you think like Minneapolis, St. Paul area would be, just by the fact that it's Minnesota, it's going to be cold,
right?
What's that city in Minnesota that's always super cold? I can't remember them.
International Falls.
International Falls. Yeah, that's it. So just as a tidbit of information here, so we, in Ames early days, when it was staffed by kind of a mixture of volunteers or part-time staff and things like that, we had a guy that my father found to kind of be the day-to-day, just pay the bills and take care of a few admin things, something like that. And he was a retired, Navy captain, but he was from International Falls. He's the only person I think I've ever met from International Falls.
Wow. You can certainly understand him getting out.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Maryland was much more hospitable than International Falls for him. And we did have a donor that was from, is it Storm Lake, Iowa? Is that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know what the weather is like that, but it seemed like it was a pretty remote thing. That guy was interesting because he became kind of like a wildcatter, and had like no education and made a fortune.
Yeah, so did that oil business.
So that goes way back. Anyway, so good weather. I like it. I'll take it. Get a few things done today outside, I guess, as a result, and all of that. All right, so just a brief note on Ukraine. So, we are about 2 weeks away, just from the 1 year anniversary. It's pretty phenomenal. Ukraine is still holding up, but Russia is really kind of throwing everything they can at it. And I just saw that, I guess, Iran is going to build a drone factory, to help supply them. I don't know how long it'll take them to get that thing up and running and anything like this, but this just, I don't know. I don't even know what to say sometimes.
This time next month, they'll have a bunch of tanks operation from Leopard tanks from Germany. Europeans are finally moving to resupply them some. They say it's just a matter of time until they get F-35s from us. I don't know about that. You're transferring a lot of technology there. That some of it we share with other people, some of it we don't. That's kind of a complex thing to be given away. It'll be interesting to see if they actually do that. The fight is back on in the eastern part of Ukraine. Pretty heavy fighting now. So it's a war and it's a slog, and it won't be over probably anytime soon.
Yeah, and I think there was a figure that was it our Defense Department, or they're estimating that there were 180,000 lost on the Russia side and about 100,000 on the Ukraine side so far. Yeah. Considering the size of the countries and everything like this, is still an utter disaster for Russia. you know, they had no, they were not planning on losing 180,000 people. Nothing, nowhere
No,
near that.
we lost 58,000 in Vietnam over what 15 years. We lost 155,000 in World War II, right, across 4 theaters. So there's 180,000 that's the Russians lost 22 million in World War II. So the way they fight, they're going to lose a lot more people. But I mean, they've already lost far more people in Ukraine than we lost in World War II. That's something to think about.
That's amazing. I didn't even realize until I saw this the other day that, there's been an increase, in migration from Russia to the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And so our government, I guess, has been trying to speed up the process or break down some of the barriers to get them into the country. The story I was reading at first, I'm looking at the picture and I'm like, okay, so is this like father and daughter? And then I start reading the article, and it's a young woman and her boyfriend. She's like 22, he's 52. I'm like, okay, all right. I don't know.
But I mean, people are trying to get out, and they're willing to do whatever it takes.
Right. No, I mean, I think that's one of the things that struck me was just that I hadn't really thought about, these are people, they're looking even to the United States to just get out. They're these two people here actually, they had protested Putin's government. They had protested the war. So they knew that, if they had been caught up, they would have been, put away. So, their next best option, since Putin apparently is standing firm, is leave.
And we're in a situation now where, he's not subject to popular will in the way that Biden is, or any American leader would be. But he is to some extent. He's not completely not subject to it, right? And so the people whose opinion he does have to respect are can't be happy with what's going on, right? It's taken a lot longer. The losses have been far more substantial. Economic damage has been. There's some stories this week, about how they have created these side networks to deal with the sanctions and so forth, and to get around it, and that it hasn't been the harpoon through their economy that they thought it would. But Russia's a pariah until this ends, until it's resolved, and from a lot of people that they need around the world. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, I mean, you were saying about the damage to the economy. I mean, the other side of that too is just that because of the warmer winter that's throughout Europe too, that has lessened the pain and any potential economic damage, for high energy prices in these countries that were, worried that they're bracing for a huge bill and a lot of problems. And they've managed to dodge that bullet. So, that's part. I mean, that was part of Putin too. I mean, he thought, okay, all right, we'll cut this stuff off and whatever, and and we'll strangle these countries. They found, they made sure they had other sources of energy, and then the winter wasn't as severe as it has been in past, and so they were able to get by with what they had, and and not having ties to Russia, it's fine. It didn't hurt them really. Yeah. So that's good. That's good overall. While we're international too, should mention this tragic earthquake in Turkey, southern Turkey, northern Syria. The last death toll I saw was 11,000, and they're nowhere near, I think, finishing with search and recovery and all this stuff. I mean, it's earthquakes. You obviously can do tremendous damage in a short period of time. A lot of these places, where these take place, you can see buildings were not constructed to withstand earthquakes, and this was a 7.8. So this was a biggie.
Yeah, there were actually two, a 7.8 and a 7.6, because it's the intersection of two plates, right? So there's two sets of conflicts going on that causes things. So yeah, and there are building codes, right? And they're just not enforced. They're corruptly enforced. People get away with stuff. It doesn't matter until something like this happens, right? So Erdogan was saying, it's like, this is why I make everybody follow the rules, right? And I think he's right about that. The White House tweeted, I thought first they'd gone into Kovefi mode, but they had some like politically correct spelling of Turkey, Turkey or something.
Oh yeah, that's how Turkey wants to be known as, right? That the Turkey.
I don't think Turkey has said anything to that.
Oh yeah, no. I mean that Turkiye or whatever, right? That is the name that they want to be recognized around the world.
Okay.
But not everybody's buying into that. I mean, it's just that is a declaration they made within the last few months, I think, about that. And it was. Yeah, this is how they want everybody to recognize them. That as I guess that is the proper spelling or doing of Turkey in going back to whenever. So that's what they want to be recognized.
I bet if we use the old spelling on the checks that they still.
Yeah, and I think the other thing was that they were also there was some stories about how they were also getting tired of the whole thing when it comes to Thanksgiving and all this kind of stuff. And but this will separate this will separate them from the turkey versus the Turkiye.
Yeah,
and everything. So
yeah, right. How can you take these people seriously?
We haven't
negotiate into the war. Right. It's right. There's no, people talk about like these guys need to start negotiating. There's nothing to negotiate, right? Russia, get the heck out. When you're out, then we can talk about like what you owe for the damage you caused. But there's no giving them something because they earned it. They didn't earn anything. So yeah, I don't see any path negotiations at this point.
Yeah. So this allows us to segue into the State of the Union because there's so much to talk about there, I think. Now, I don't stay up for this stuff. I don't care who the president is at this point. It is now past my bedtime. I rarely on a weekday last past 8:30, and I'm certainly not watching this whole thing. I've begun to wonder about the value, exactly what we're doing here with the State of the Union and the State of the State addresses. It's a lot of politicking and just, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. People stand up and clap or people do whatever and you move on and maybe some new policies are announced, but how many of those policies ever actually, wind up being legislation that gets signed? Not a lot. But I will start off on the high note for Biden, at least from my opinion, as I look back at the things, which is that, he did continue to stand firm with Ukraine on this and made no bones about that. So I think that he deserves credit for that. But there's a lot of things in that speech were just awful.
It's ridiculous. He wants to fund things that no one wants. More gun control. We've done our gun control for this decade, buddy. It will be a while before that comes back up. Wants to make trans rights. I mean, they're not really talking about the stuff that matters to rank and file Americans. One of the most remarkable things about last night is, usually you just cringe at the rebuttal speech, right at the end. But the rebuttal speech was far better than the speech, right? And I thought Sarah Huckabee Sanders was excellent in what she said. I think she delivered the key line of the night, which is it really isn't left or right anymore, right? It's normal versus crazy, right? Republicans are within a fairly, realm of where they usually are on stuff. They want the border closed, taxes reduced, spending reduced. We can argue over the particulars of those things. Strong military, right? Those are things the Republicans are always for. The left has gone berserk. They're the ones way, way off the track of what is normal in America. And so they have a compliant media which treats their stuff as normal, even though it's never been close to normal, right? And that's what she pointed out. And I think that's the point to make through 2024. It's like none of what these people are doing is normal.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with that. I mean, I think, really what we've seen ever since, the Democrats, the 2020 election they've decided here for the last, 2+ years is to go on and just the super radical agenda, and something that, we have just not seen anything like this in our lifetimes, I think. And they have gone berserk in that sense. They thought they could get everything. They thought they could just go out there and everybody would fall into line and they would wind up, radicalizing America and doing all these things. They've run into a lot of roadblocks along the way. Now they don't have control of Congress. So a lot of stuff is not going to happen, as a result. But it doesn't stop Biden and the administration from continuing to try to push these crazy ideas and all these things. I mean, he talks about what it was, kind of like criminal justice reform. I mean, Tyree Nichols' mom and stepdad, I think, were there, and but he doesn't really address the root of the problem, right? I mean, it's just right. It's a kind of a sop. I look when I look at all these
bunch of sops. It was sops linked end to end. That's what it was. It really was.
Yeah, it was. It was. I mean, this is the kind of thing is like, you look at this and I mean, I'm just like, I try to be fair-minded with these things. I really do. But I'm just like, how many times are we going to see these politicians, these presidents kind of just bring out the same old, tropes and things like that? I don't know. It was, you have, then I did enjoy kind of looking at the pictures of, Kevin McCarthy versus Kamala Harris and, in the back and then, Harris having to be the cheerleader to try to get everything roused and things like that. Not crazy about, Marjorie Taylor Greene and her outbursts and things like that. I just think, just get on with it. Just let the whole thing get over with, and all this, the controversy between Mitt Romney, the confrontation between him and Santos.
You know what? If I'm Santos, I grab him by the tie and I stick my finger in his face and I'm like, don't you dare ever speak to me again. Right? That's what I do. I scare him half that way out of that chamber. I'm like, I will beat you to within an inch of your life. You right? And then, you don't ever have to worry about him again. Hey, what did he say to you? Well, nothing, right? Because you can't say that, right? You can't say what he just said. I mean, I thought that was, and I understand what he's saying. He's saying, you're in trouble. Don't be in the camera. A symbol of our corruption, shaking hands with everybody that walks off the stage, right? But, Santos won an election. He has a right to be there. Nothing's been proven that he did improper to get that election. If we're going to kick out everybody who lied to be there, we're going to be kicking out Biden, Richard Blumenthal, a whole bunch of other people, AOC, Rosa DeLauro. There's a lot of them who lied to be there. So,
yeah,
and it's like, what is too much lying? Well, the amount Republicans do is too much. The amount Democrats do is just below the limit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I'm not crazy about this guy. I mean, I think he's a one and done. I can't see him getting
right. Give him his 2 years and move on. Right? Yeah, you don't have a right to take his seat. Yeah. Voters in his district have spoken. They screwed up, or actually, the Democrats didn't do any Oppo research on the guy. Own party didn't do a lot of research because, hey, we might win. Hey, the guy looks like he can win. Why are we, why are we making trouble, right? So, and he got through. So 2 years from now, that's going to be a vulnerable seat.
Yeah, I mean, you have to prove that he did something illegal to get elected. I mean, did he, did he somehow manipulate the vote? Did, some campaign finance violations and things like that? Things that, but lying is not a crime.
Right, it's not. And it's like they all do it. Almost all of them, their story is at least a little enhanced,
Yes, if you're going to accuse him that he doesn't deserve a seat to be lying, please line up and take the lie detector test and let's see what we get. Everybody who's accusing him of this problem, and the media included. It's like, did you lie to get your job too? All right, so we got a few comments here. I'm going to put these up here real quick. So we got that. And we got Spencer weighing in on Sarah Sanders here.
Yeah. The story about Trump's Christmas visit, it was hard to not cry, Yeah. I didn't catch Tlaib's either. I probably would have been pretty interesting. She's kind of angry. But yeah, she hit the story about sneaking over, taking off in the dark and flying in the dark and all that to spend Christmas with the troops. I mean, that's what people loved about Trump, right? He hit those notes, right? He understood what it meant to love America. It's not an act. It's not something he had to make up. It came to him naturally.
And of course, Trump with Truth Social couldn't let it go himself, so he had to have his own weighing in on things too. So
yeah, I saw his.
we get a lot thanks to the internet. We get a lot of extra stuff that versus the old days when it was just the speech and the rebuttal,
right. Which is very good because I mean you get a lot of takes, you get a lot of more information.
Right, right, so. We do. So, other things in there. I mean, they're the odd moments of, Biden talking about, how we're going to kind of need fossil fuels, it's here to stay for more years. The funny thing is that it's the truth, but it's that inconvenient truth for the Democrats. Here's right. Biden front and center trying to, defossilize in essence, this country, but he's admitting, he says, no, it's got to be around. And, what have we seen in the last, week or 10 days? I mean, it was, British Petroleum, BP, they're scaling back. These European energy companies have definitely fallen into line of, we have to go, clean energy. And they were going to spend tons and tons of money. And now even BP in that last earnings announcement they put out said, well, we're still committed, but we're not going to devote as much money.
You're regulating them out of business. You're making it cost prohibitive.
Well, and they said the stinging thing too, I think, is that this, they're not making any money off of it. There's the profits off of fossil fuels and doing what they are, their bread and butter is much better than dealing with the clean energy side of it. The investment required and the payback, it's just a low return for them. And they look at this and and BP and Shell, they trail badly. Exxon, Chevron, those guys, the American companies are making money, hand over fist. The European companies are making good money, but about half or 1/3 as much as the Chevrons and the Exxons of the world. So yeah, I think when you're the oil company execs and you're like, okay, maybe we should be competing better with them, but we've devoted way too much to this, this clean energy stuff, and it's dragging us down.
That's right.
Dragging
down. And we have guys, the reason that there's all these stock buybacks and paying dividends and so forth is because the government won't let them spend the money on this, their business, right? If the government would let them drill, they would spend the money on drilling. There wouldn't be all these buybacks and all this stuff, right? They're only doing that because they're blocked from doing what they want to do.
Right. I mean, their oil and gas exploration is way down, and that is a result of government policies that have discouraged that and prevented them from doing that. You can't.
Well, actually, the totally correct way to say that is it should have risen by a lot more. It's not really that far down so much as it is. It needs to be growing a lot. We're using, we're using about 1/3 more energy now than we did 8 years ago. So you're adding 1/3 of your energy load in 8 years. You have a critical need to not stand in one place on energy supply, right? It needs to go up. So we're not adding. We know we need to add. We know we need a lot more power, but we're not adding it because of green energy zealots dragging down the economy.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're not spending as much on this aspect of things. So because they're not. There's no incentive for them to do so, and a lot of their paths are blocked. So they just can't. I mean, that's why we're running been running at over 90% capacity on the refineries. We can't do much more. We're limited.
Right.
By what we can do, but a lot of regulations have forced, a lot of refiners and a lot of that capacity to go away. So their demand is up, but we don't have the ability to meet that demand.
We can't meet it. We don't have enough oil, and we don't have the refining capacity if we did. So
right, and then as we get into the green energy side of this, is that energy demand for a lot of things like electricity and stuff like that. That there's still a lot of demand for that, but regulations and they want, we have to green that grid or whatever. You can't generate the energy, the energy that's needed for this country off of wind and solar.
Like my friend Jack Spencer at Heritage Foundation has said this for years. No energy subsidies for anybody. not oil and gas, not nuclear, not green. Just let the market sort it out. We won't at first. You won't have, it won't bring lower prices immediately, but it will, right? Because people will, the most efficient ones will run out.
Well, then that brings up an interesting question. I mean, in terms of just, the overall decisions that our country has made in terms of how we do things, is that, there are subsidies going all over the board, and
Yeah.
it seems somewhat antithetical to our capitalist system, in the sense that we really should let the market decide, the free market system. We should really let that decide. But boy, it's like, you ever tried to pull a subsidy from anywhere? The howling.
Well, right. So what happens is, that's, you hear these things at the end of the year. They have to pass two bills, right? The omnibus, that like ties up all the spending needs, and what they call the tax extenders, right? And the extenders, one of the extenders is the wind production tax credit. So that's basically all the big fund that funds wind exploration, wind energy manufacturing, deploying, all right, so forth. So 1 year they did manage to get that out. They had the votes, and it didn't get back in. Heavy lobbying. And they finally just said, we're going home for Christmas, and you're going to have to do without this for a year. Private investment in wind energy went down 92% in that year. So in other words, the entire industry is based on a huge government investment. If you take away the government investment, you'd still have a solar industry, but because they have adapted, and they've come up with stuff like you have, where it's, you're not having a farm of solar. You have one house, right, that you're helping. It has some applications like that, but wind would be wiped out. It just doesn't work, and it's wildly inefficient. So now, because we're not going to cut the subsidies, he wants to add to the subsidies, right? You're going to just expand the inefficiency, right? There's no other way that this can come out.
Well, really as much as with the last act, that what is it, the Inflation Reduction Act that was passed, that has a ton of money in there for green, including all the electric vehicle credits and everything like that, right? So a lot of those credits which had expired, there's a whole new slew of them now, and now you can get them on used vehicles. But I saw that they had actually, because of the lobbying, by the EV manufacturers, which now includes the GMs and the Fords of the world, that they boosted the eligible prices for the vehicle. I think it was at 55, 65,000. They've now boosted it to 80, because which is still silly to me, because it's like, how many people can afford to pay that kind of money for these vehicles to begin with?
Right.
But they're out there throwing all this money, and I've said this a gazillion times probably, which is just that Elon Musk and all of the things that he's done with Solar City and Tesla, and which is now all one company. He would not have been able to make this company. His company has been built on government subsidies.
His entire thing is he has figured out industries the government overpays for.
Right.
And he gets in and accepts the overpayment. Solar, electric cars, space, right? They have no idea what they should be paying Raytheon. There's like 3 competitors, right? So, he's really taking advantage of that. He's got to be the richest man in the world off of it.
Yeah. So in interest of full disclosure, as a result of that, I want my piece of that pie too. So I bought 6 shares of Tesla, and then proceed to watch it go down about like 70% or something like that. And then since then it's now doubled. I'm thinking, like, I should have bought some more at the bottom. I would, like 6 whole shares is not going to make me rich, but it's like, okay, at some point in time, I'll get nervous. I'll just sell the 6 shares and pocket some money and whatnot. But it's turned around. I mean, his wealth can largely be attributed to federal, just taking advantage of this. And, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? I mean, he has the laws and the system is out there. He's found a way to use it. And he's not the only person that's done that in the course of history. And so my hat's off to him for doing that. My other son, I mean, without these subsidies, I don't think he would have the job he does right now. I mean, he works for a solar company in Utah, and I don't think that they would be around if not for the subsidies that'll enable that company to go out there and market their solar panels, and make it so that it works for everybody. So at the cost, I mean, you and I, everybody, watching this, everybody around, we're all taxpayers. Every taxpayer is basically footing the bill for this. So we have all contributed to Elon Musk's wealth.
Right, that's right.
So
there was a thing in the Los Angeles Times, and it's like 2014, so it's way out of date, where he had already gotten like $14 billion in government subsidies. They were trying to track it, and of course, that list is hopelessly out of date now.
Yeah, some of that money he spent, he blew on Twitter. So
yeah, that's true. Although that's looking pretty good too.
It's been interesting to watch. I mean, he's a long way away from doing what he needs to do to actually pay the interest on the debt that he accumulated. He took for that, but the changes that he has made has shaken it up. And it's interesting now. So, all that liberal kind of outrage about Elon Musk and all these things that he was going to do and all this has seemed to subside a lot because, we saw this massive movement to Mastodon, right? Mm-hmm. But now the figures coming out show that Mastodon's numbers are shrinking. Right. And so the people are probably, they couldn't find an alternative way of an alternative to Twitter that worked for them. Because a lot of people use Twitter, a lot of news people use Twitter for the news feed. They that's what they do, and they can't get away. There's nothing else that's that substitutes for that, so they will continue to use it.
Plus, Twitter is the only one where there's really a battle of ideas.
Yeah, right? I mean, you've got
Facebook, you're cornered into the people who are like you for the most part, right?
Yeah, and you've got Rob Reiner out there and some of these liberals, and they keep talking, how can these Republicans do this? Joe Biden's been doing all this great stuff, the greatest economy in the world, blah 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 blah, and all this kind of stuff, and and yet not all the figures back him up. I mean, especially when he talks about gas prices, because we've said this a million times, is that Biden talking about gas prices, he shouldn't be talking about gas prices because they're still high.
There was a lot of things in that speech that they're like, why are you bringing this up? Gas prices, it was $2 when he came in. It's $3.50 now. Inflation. He talked about, we rescued the economy. It was 1.4 when you came in. It's 6 now. According to my Louisiana math, we're not all that good at it down there. That's more than 4 times. That's like almost 4.5 times, right? What it was when you took office. We've lost a third of our generational wealth, wiping out retirement funds, the stock market, and so forth. He's been a terrible president for American prosperity. And
so he's out there, and then there was that Washington Post ABC poll, right? That just,
62% of the people said you've done nothing for me. All your expensive bills you passed, but nothing. Then he brings up China. Because we really stuck it to China. I'm like, they just flew a balloon over the whole country, and you did nothing about it except wait a few days and make up lies about it also happened to Trump, right? And we blocked it. Oh, yeah, and we also blocked our transmission so they couldn't see what was going on. No, you didn't. You thought that up after the thing, right? I mean, that was utter incompetence. It's like, how do you let this happen? The other thing about this is now they're saying, maybe some did fly over when Trump was president, and they didn't tell Trump, right? Jim Mattis, who I guess was Secretary of Defense at the time, didn't tell Trump, right? He's like, he'll go off half-cocked. Like, Jim Mattis does not get to make that call. So Jim Mattis if this is true, if all this holds up, and remains to be seen, but if it does, he knew Chinese were spying on us, and he let them complete their spy mission without interruption. Okay. That makes him a traitor, right? You go to the stockade for that and you don't get out, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, in the way the White House has tried to manage this, this balloon issue has just been farcical. I mean, it just, once again, our favorite person, Karine Jean-Pierre, she's clueless. I mean,
she's completely clueless. And, the problem with that is like, okay, to an extent, you could send a 5-year-old out to do her job, right? Because, it's just, okay, this is a question about issue 6, right? I open my binder to issue 6 and I read out what they gave me to say about issue 6. Okay, right? I mean, that's basically what she does. Okay, but you have to know what page to turn to in the binder, which part of the page there to use, right? And she can't figure that out. I mean, she flies in the face of facts all the time. And people are just like, no, they really, one of the things that comes through in all this polling is when the Biden administration talks, no one believes them, either side, right? The other side hopes it's true, but they know it's not, right? They know that these people are lying.
Yeah, and I think it, to a certain extent, it even exasperates some of the liberal media because they want to be able to prop up this administration and defend them, but Karine Jean-Pierre is pretty inept, and the answers that come out of the White House are pretty bad, and so I think a lot of them even struggle. It's like, how do I paint this so that it's not overly damaging to the administration, because we can't get something that we can spin really favorably. It's just really, really hard, to do anything about this. And yeah, I mean, the reports that came out that the Chinese are saying, well, it was some weather balloon or whatever blown off course. It was like, oh, really?
Yeah, how dare you shoot it down and pick it up and look at it? Like, excuse me, keep it out of our country and you won't have to worry about it getting shot down, picked up, looked at.
Was it the governor out there that was saying, like, yeah, the big danger if they had shot it down would have been to what, what was it, an elk or a cow or bison or something?
Apparently, it did have some explosives on it. They were now saying this morning. So
yeah,
but I mean, maybe 2 elk, 2 cows, but not much more.
There we go.
Yeah, adversary, right. He doesn't understand the problem with China at all. He doesn't understand the China situation at all. All he knows is that he is purchased, right? He will say what they tell him to say, basically.
Yeah, and that ought to upset a lot of people about this, is that the way he addressed that and the way the administration has handled this is it's just been so weak-kneed on this. Then you're like, okay, you're paid off, you're bought off, something to that effect.
4 days before you told him about it, and then 3 more days before he took action.
Yeah.
He's like, I wanted to do it Wednesday, and they said we couldn't do it till Saturday. It's like, you're the one who decides, buddy. They don't decide. America needs to understand that these unelected people don't decide.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, does it wake up a lot of people to the fact that they're 65, 70,000 miles up in the sky? There could be spy balloons running around that we don't know about. Is the government doing anything about it? I mean, I'm sure that this type of thing has been used for a long time in different it's just getting more modern technology that allows them to put more into these things and doing it. But it is a little disconcerting when when the reports are that it's been hovering over some military facilities and some other things. That it's like, yeah, okay, so what are we doing about this exactly?
Yeah,
the memes have been great, though.
Huh?
The memes have been great.
Yeah, the memes have been great. Trying to call you about your car warranty.
Yeah. I particularly like the one with the little Chinese carryout box floating around under it and everything. It's just, I don't know. You kind of wonder, we're 2 years, a little over 2 years into this administration, and it just makes me shake my head. And we do have Biden, laying the groundwork for a 2024 run, it seems. But like the poll, that poll said, I mean, what was it? Was it 58% of Democrats don't want him to run? And they're not happy with Harris. They don't think that she's competent,
right,
to do anything. She's done absolutely nothing at all to say, to prove to people that she could be the heir apparent on that as well.
Then you get they're crazies, Buttigieg, Warren, Bernie Sanders. I mean, people that are not electable, almost no matter who we run, even Trump.
Yeah, I mean, I just, it's hard to, I mean, it's hard to think that Biden, he won't face a challenge unless he there will, he's the nominee unless certain things, some other things happen, he'd have to step aside, something they prove, something mental incapacity, some other things like that. It's, for me, let Biden run again, because I think we could find a candidate to run against Biden and we can beat him, this time around.
Well, the thing is, it's like if you're going to try to figure this out, if you're going to handicap this, you got to figure out who can Trump beat, because it does not matter. The other people don't matter. No one else can be our nominee. The votes just aren't there, right? About 40% of the people who voted for Trump in 2016 had never voted in any election before. So it's not like you transfer their votes over to DeSantis. It's they vote for Trump or they do not vote. So, I don't see how anybody else gets it at this point. What did Bob say? That went away. I was talking. I was trying to.
Sorry, I can't. Sorry about trying to get you to multitask.
Right. That's right. He's right. We're not going to do that. We said no, and we're trying to smooth things over. This is not a smooth things over. This is like, what the hell are you doing spying on our country? Right? You got caught here. You are the ones who have explaining to do, not us.
So, I mean, what you just said about Trump, I mean, I am curious. I mean, in a sense, Trump in a primary, I will be curious to see how that goes. If Nikki Haley announces next week as expected, if DeSantis is interested. I mean, Nikki Haley is a VP candidate, is VP
cabinet position. She's clearly not thinking she's going to win, right?
Yeah,
but she's basically Pete Buttigieg or one of those.
Yeah, well, and you put your name out there hoping that you get something, out of that. I don't think that she thinks, and there'll be some others that'll probably jump in there as well, and it'll be interesting to see because will that core Trump voter, are they still going to stick around? I mean, there is I don't know. I mean, I don't know how many of those people are still as enthused, but that's where the primaries, when he puts his name in there and gets out, if he actually is serious and gets out there and does the stumping and all that, we'll see, through Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, some of these places, whether or not this actually, is how viable a candidate he will be. And all of that. So it'll be an interesting 2024 will be interesting. The other thing that makes 2024 interesting is how the DNC has lined this thing up to try to make sure that Biden is the nominee, right? I mean, they're rejiggering the calendar.
Right. They may come to regret that. I was saying before we leave the Republicans, I'm beginning to think that you won't get all that big a field. Because I believe that, for one thing, the people who don't want it to be Trump understand that if it's a big field, he almost certainly wins. The fewer in the field, the better kind of chance you have at him. And also, I mean, if you look at the polling of this, Trump is clearly ahead, and DeSantis is clearly second, and everybody else is wasting money. I mean, that could change. You get breakthrough candidates, but if you look at the people who are on that list of potential breakthrough candidates, why haven't they broken through before, right? There's no wild card, unknown political talent out there. You're like, wow, we didn't realize what an amazing guy this dude was. That with Trump, that could happen because you had not seen him in the political arena like that before. So he was, as a politician, he was a new commodity, right? There's no new commodities out there now. We know all these people. We know what they're capable of and what votes they're capable of earning. So I think that now, as for Biden, yes, they have rejiggered the primaries to make sure that he wins again. They may come to curse Agus, and no one's going to make a whole lot of trouble there. But the thing about this is, what if you get into that thing, and the Democrats won't admit this, but there was a lot of stumbling and stammering and nonsensical stuff in that speech last night. He very much, the first thing Brett Hume said when it ended was, this guy is, the way he gives the speech, you can tell he's weakened and old, and nobody in the world is afraid of him or us anymore, right? Which is true. I mean, the polling and the way we get treated around the world clearly shows that. So, I don't know that, if someone's there, if he gives us another speech like this next year, right, a year more progressed into dementia or whatever, I'm not sure that he wins this winner take all thing. And then what? Then you have, oh, whoops, we let someone else win the winner take all thing, who we don't really want to be the nominee, which is where they were kind of headed last time and the time before. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if they would have. I guess they still would have done this, regardless whether, even if Iowa, the Democrats hadn't kind of screwed up their last one, because I think they're all about trying to make sure I mean, South Carolina, definitely was a boost for Biden. They want to reward that, and all this stuff, Iowa's, it's too white, it's not diverse enough, and all of this stuff. We have, I subscribe to the Disney bundle, though I don't watch much Disney these days, unless it's Star Wars, and they haven't had anything for a while. But they send this questionnaire out, so like, okay, fine, I'll answer their questionnaire, for them, and I'm going through these things, and then I finally stop. I didn't complete the questionnaire because there's a question that's like, how by percentage, you had to fill in the percentage, how much do you turn to, these services? So they want to know, like, Disney, Hulu, ESPN Plus, and then like Roku or other streaming, I guess it was other streaming services, for when you want to watch programs about inclusivity. And I'm like, stop. Stop. I'm sorry. My wife and I, or even if my kids were around, we're not going to be sitting around going like, oh, well, we really need a program that's inclusive tonight, so should we return it to Disney or Hulu or what? I was like, okay, that's enough. Okay, I hate giving them my money, but this is just ridiculous. And this is kind of like, this is the thing with the Democrats, with the liberals, is that it's all this inclusivity, right? It's like a lot of stuff is now based on inclusivity. If it's not inclusive enough, it's, you're gonna go lower on the scale. You're pushed to the back of the field or whatever. Now, I mean, this is at least where, something where DeSantis, as he's attacked the education establishment, he's gone after so many different things. He's gone after tenure. He's been big on CRT. He's done the Black History AP course, got them, even though the College Board said no, he had no, they had already made their decision, but they were waiting for all their revisions to come in, but there's a program that's now more acceptable than it was before. And he's also trying to get rid of the diversity, equity and inclusion stuff that's going on, which is just spread like wildfire across colleges and universities and stuff like that. This is a big thing now. It's like, who asked for this except for the liberals, so it's just something I want to bang my head against the wall a lot of times with all of this. So I guess we're going to go back to green energy. I probably should have included this when we had this before about just the things. So kind of as an answer to everything that Biden has done with subsidizing green energy, the EU is now jumping, with both feet in there too. They want to say, they were not happy with what we were doing because some of the laws that had, when that law was that, certain percentage of the battery had to be made in America or come from American materials and all this kind of stuff. So now the EU is basically taking, swipe at that and saying, well, we're going to enact our own thing. Not overly surprising that the EU would do it. I mean, they've been knee deep in green energy for a while.
Protectionism and socialism and competitive forcesism, right? They're not serious. They're using this as an excuse to do stuff they want to do anyway. So I don't place a whole lot of, the thing about it is like, their world is different over there a little bit on this because they don't have a lot of natural resources of their own. So, if they really can't balance their energy checkbook, they go without. Like we can say, okay, we overdid it on the green. Let's pump, right? Tomorrow we pump, right? We fix this. They can't really do that. So, it'll be interesting to see how far they go with all that. My suspicion is, we're near a tipping point where people say, I'm tired of paying too much for a farce, right? It's like, we're now at 102 months of no warming, right? That's 8.5 years. We've gone from predicted 9 inches of sea level rise this century to 4 inches of sea level rise this century. There's no trend. There's no like thing that's happening to us because of global warming or whatever that we need to defend against. And that's becoming ever more apparent, right? The weather, the world refuses to burn up or whatever AOC said it would do, kind of stubbornly hangs on being what it's always been. If anything, it's getting a little healthier, right? The world's more green than it was 50 years, a lot more green, about a quarter more green than it was 50 years ago.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. Now, while we were talking, I forgot I was going to throw what's the other thing there because I wanted your opinion about this. I don't know if you saw that story, but the British UK, the National Health Service is crumbling.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, because it's it's death bookies, right? It's what did we say? What do we call it? Death panels. We called it, right?
Yeah.
And it's absolutely true. It's everything that Americans, when we fought the last 2 times that they tried to socialize medicine, it's everything we said is coming true. You become an item on the cost side of the ledger. The patients are something. The patients are treated as something to limit the cost of their treatment, right? I mean, that's what you're doing. It's like, how can we do this cheaper? Well, I don't want, when I'm laying there with my life at stake, I don't want to, what's the cheapest way to go about helping this guy? How can we knock off a few bucks? Well, a couple of you nurses wander off, right? We don't really need you all here, So, I mean, it's never going to work. The government shouldn't be in control of healthcare. They should not. It does not work. It does not help the people they say it's going to help.
Yeah, and yet they thought they had this wonderful model. They're saying, we're very lean, we're very cost efficient and everything like this, and it is totally
they're the only people in the world who employ more people than the National Health Service are the Grand Trunk Railroad and the People's Liberation Army of China. Okay, that's the only 2, right? And England, you're talking about 65 million people, right at about 1/5 of our population. So here, if we were as efficient as the English, we would need 5 times as many people to run our National Health Service. No way, buddy, no way.
Yeah, I mean, this is just, you read the stories about this. It's just, this is such a failure on a massive scale. I mean, people can't get ambulances. I mean, they're having heart attacks. They can't get an ambulance. You can't get doctors. You can't get surgeries that are needed, and things like this. Life-saving,
right. Everything's palliative. Oh, we'll just keep you feeling okay. Doesn't hurt too bad. It's like, why can't you just fix it? Well, it costs too much to fix. To make you healthy again, to actually free you of this, we can't really afford it. Right?
Yes, I mean the bill is coming due for them now. Yeah. All that money they cut by just trying to run a very lean operation when they thought they were being efficient has just blown up in their face because they didn't spend enough. And as you said, first they shouldn't have been in the business anyway.
Right.
But by not spending enough money on it, is the cumulative effect of that is now the ticking time bomb, which is blown up. Right. And people are dying. People are literally dying as a result of this, and they have no fix.
And people in the United States are pushing for us to be more like them.
Yeah.
Like, you can have that one, buddy. We'll stay here and do things correctly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's hopefully some liberals will look at this. I don't think they would, but say, okay, well, we cannot point to the NHS as an example there, and yet it's a big example of what happens and what goes wrong. So it puts a severe dent in any movement to try and do that, because we'll be able to just point to Great Britain and say, do you want that to happen?
Yeah, we don't want that. Canada,
you do not want that. So at all.
And other related story that you have down here is that the thing about it may not seem related is that the legal marijuana industry in California is about to collapse because of overregulation by government. Right? They cannot lay off. They can't just let these guys run their business and collect the big tax windfall. They got to meddle in it to the point that the people who are doing it, and in California, there are parts of California, especially like up above San Francisco, they're best places on the planet to grow marijuana, right? So it's not the growing environment that's making them broke. It's you. It's the bureaucrats of the state of California.
Yeah, no, that was an interesting thing because they thought this was going to say, okay, well, by passing these laws, we will basically eliminate the illegal drug trade, marijuana trade. And we give this thing for them for recreational purposes, and we'll tax it and all this kind of stuff, and everything will be fine. It'll be out in the open. Instead, what's happened is that all these taxes, all these regulations have basically said to the operators, Curaleaf, which is a huge operator, they're saying, we're pulling out because the illegal trade has boomed. The black market has boomed.
Why? Why is it boomed? Because yours costs too much. Why does yours cost
the illegal stuff?
Government taxes.
So yeah, it's been a nightmare for them. And it's just, once again, look to California. This is what is going to happen, nationwide. I mean, California may be a little more unique because, as you said, I mean, they've got the right climate, to grow. Right. But this is just kind of just a reminder of what happens when you try to do this. The liberals always think, oh, well, you make it legal, you wipe out the illegal stuff. No, it's not that simple. Oh, all right. Anyway, we need to wrap this up. What are your final words here?
Looking down at our list, yes, there is an opioid crisis in DMV schools. I think my kids' school, they've had 5 people overdose this year. They didn't all die, but they had come get them out of school overdosing. They had one kid die around here recently. He took a Percocet that was laced with fentanyl, and he did not know it. And he, I think the other thing is that one though you can kind of handle. That's capitalism. There's too many dispensaries. You won't need any, right? You won't need that many, and it'll iron itself out. And yeah, if you want to drive, if your aim is to drive the black market people out of business, then you need to lower the price, because the druggies really don't care about the legitimacy of it, right? They were already buying it illegally, right? They're not, oh, I don't want to buy the illegal one. That's what they've always done. So if you want to step it out, do that. So they had this kid that he thought he was taking, no, it was a girl, thought she was taking a Percocet, which is, fairly mild thing. And she didn't want to do it. And they pressured her into it. But it turned out it was laced with fentanyl, and she almost died. A freshman in high school. So, now the people who pressured her, not good, right? They're also in trouble. So, stay away from that stuff, man. Anything in a pill now is subject to being laced with fentanyl. Fentanyl is 30 to 50 times the strength of heroin. You cannot mess around. Got to get to the kids and talk to them about this before.
And I just saw a news report this morning that in High Point High School over there in the Beltsville, that area, PG County, they did a parents kind of thing about this problem, and that with instructions and whatever, and then the parents could actually they could take Narcan with them. They were told how to administer that, but they were now giving them that. This is how bad this has been, is that they're now supplying the parents with Narcan, because it's just, this epidemic it's tragic. It is really tragic.
It's 90% of it's coming across the Mexican border that Joe Biden refuses to guard.
Yeah, he's really concerned about that.
Congratulations to LeBron James becoming the all-time leading scorer in the NBA, past Kareem Abdul-Jabbar last night. It's now LeBron, Kareem, Karl Malone, Michael Jordan is your top 4. So Super Bowl, I like the Eagles. I think they will win it. What do you think?
I think the Eagles have the advantage. I'm going to be rooting for Andy Reid one way or the other, but the Eagles, if Mahomes' ankle is not 100%, the Eagles defense, Jalen Hurts is playing out of his mind this year. Yeah. They just so many.
They won a tough division too. I mean, like even the Commanders were a pretty good team to finish last place. They had 7 wins and they finished in last.
The NFC East, which was a horrible division just a few years ago, was a pretty good division.
The year before, like 2 years ago, it was awful. And now it's really good. Between with the Cowboys, the Giants, the Commanders being a decent team, that was a pretty tough division compared to a lot of other places in the in the NFL. So it really was.
Yeah. So here's Bob.
Yeah. in-laws. I got you. Yeah, it's not gonna be fun for any of us. So.
You know, it's so hard to rule Patrick Mahomes out. That guy is an incredible quarterback. So he's he and Kelsey are kind of that's the X factor. I mean, you just don't know.
Yeah, he's definitely hard to rule out. Good time to be a Philly fan though. The Sixers are pretty good. Philly's just played in the World Series, and now the Eagles in the Super Bowl. So.
Yeah, and if Bryce gets healthy, they'll be a very good team this year.
Good again, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and P's and C's are reporting soon, right?
Yes, indeed, next week.
So there's a lot of stuff going on. All
right,
right.
It's a little bit sad for me though, because we're the reigning world champions. And so we got to start defending it now.
Yeah.
Once, world champion right here, but it's over now. We got to start going out.
Right. And that's one of the hardest things to do is to defend your title.
Yeah, it really is.
So, all right, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you've had fun and enjoyed it. Please, as always, stay safe and stay well. Remember, we live in the greatest country in the world. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. And as always, God bless America. We will see you in actually 2 weeks. I got to be off next week, but we'll see you back in 2 weeks with plenty of news and information. So enjoy yourself. Stay safe. See you then, folks.